Hey, Neil McDonnell here. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and I just want to welcome you to my April 19th daily LinkedIn Live, where I discuss the process and procedures for you to achieve success in the federal market. I've spent 20 years as a small business owner in the federal market, and since 2018, I've been teaching folks like you that government contracting is not a secret, it's just a process. And today, I want to continue that discussion about what is the process as it relates to hiring. So I want to talk to you about who to hire and what order I would hire for small businesses. I'm going to get started in just 1 second, but I did I did want to apologize. Okay, last time. I'm sorry. I want to apologize. I am sick, but I don't want to miss a LinkedIn Live unless I absolutely have to. I think the topics are good, and I think consistency is good. As long as I'm not going to the office and getting somebody else sick, doing it virtual, I can do. But it also lets me to expand on ideas. So, for example, today's topic about hiring and in which order in a small business, this is a big deal. And this question came up from somebody yesterday who watched the LinkedIn Live event about how to make money, right? Moving forward in different stages. And so in that, while they were doing that, one of the things I said is you want to hire people who are making money, and that led to questions around who do I hire. So I'm going to go through giving you my guidance on it. If I started a new business today, this is exactly the process I would follow, and it's the process or the approach that I tell business owners who are asking me about, hey, should I hire this person or that person? One thing I want to make clear is that I'm going to use examples from my past company, but it's not, in no way is it reflective of people. It's reflective of my knowledge now and my experience gained about which positions are the right ones to hire in the right order. And so I'm pretty much going to talk from a perspective of money. As you're making money, at what stages are you hiring people? So that's where I'm going to go with that today. One last apology to those of you who are just joining. I am sick. I'm going to have a terrible voice today. It might be a little crackly, but the content, the message will be solid. So stick with me on it, and I think you'll get a lot of value out of it today. Do me a favor, in the comments, let me know that you're out there. I'd especially be curious of your company name and your core competency, but I'm also curious on whether you're in this hiring mode or you're kind of struggling with it. Let me know if you feel comfortable putting something in the comment. Okay, so let me set the stage. When I form a company and I'm growing a company, I focus on profit first. And so what that means is making some money and making sure it's profitable. Yesterday, I talked about the stages of going from, let's say, 10,000 to 100,000 to a million. And there's these incremental step forwards. And so the first people that I want to hire are people who are going to make the company revenue. That means basically in a service-based business, these are people that work for the customer almost an hour for $1, right? Or an hour for $100. So they're out on the customer site or working for that customer in a billable capacity. They're generating revenue. They have a specific cost. Let's say somebody costs me completely, hands down, $90,000, but I am getting $100,000 from the customer. Then the cost is $90,000 and the profit is 10%. And by the way, I'm not a CPA or a lawyer. I'm a business person who focuses on the net numbers and not all the other numbers. What I care about is at the end of the day, how much net profit do I have available to put into my pocket or to put into my business to grow the business? What I don't care about is, and I say don't care softly, what I don't really care about is those numbers in between, because those are still going to be spent somewhere. That net profit at the end is the part I care about. So in this example, I hired somebody, they're bringing in $100,000. Their absolute total cost to the company is $90,000, so that I get $10,000. I talk about how you want to be billable yourself when you're building a company initially for a lot of different reasons, but the primary reason is to make sure you're getting eating money. But as you move forward and you have these profitable people, you want to begin to, in that scenario, let's say my salary is $50,000 a year to live on, or my total cost is $50,000 to live on, then I need 5 people working at the $10,000 profit to be able to feed him. Okay, so as I go forward, I don't want to hire anybody at all who's not going to go out and generate revenue. So let me pause for a second, because as you start hiring people, you do have what I call back office needs. I used to call them operational needs, but some people call working with a customer operations. For this scenario, when I say back office or operations, I mean the stuff it takes to run the company. And when I say service delivery, I mean doing the work for the customer. And so in this case, if I'm hiring people, then I need somebody paying attention to these people's needs, right? An HR, a people person, whatever you want to call it, but generally human resources, right? Well, here's my first solid piece of advice for any company getting ready. Outsource everything that is not your core competency until you're so large it makes sense to bring them in. So HR, there's some fantastic external sources, the same way that you might be an external source to the government for elevators, cybersecurity, SharePoint, whatever. If you can be that to them, you're filling that external need. You care about their mission as much as they do. Well, somebody could do that exact same thing for you, for HR. But the thing is, you're not going to pay nearly as much as you would for an employee. Second, you're still trying to build your company. And so you don't want to add on fixed costs. And I don't want to go into a financing thing, but fixed cost is permanent. I want not fixed costs, right? Something I can cut back. But anyways, work with an external HR person. They can take care of it. If these people have computers, there's all sorts of people out there who can take care of servicing your needs, a couple $1,000s a month, or maybe they charge $100 per month per user. It doesn't matter because it's predictable costs. When you begin to hire people inside to do that, that cost is less predictable because they get caught up in random meetings, they get caught up in unspecific or undefined projects. But when you outsource it, you tell somebody, look, I want my email up 24/7, no excuses. And if I don't have that, then I don't have to pay you as much or whatever. These people are highly motivated to keep your computers up and running. So anyways, when you look at everything related to your internal costs, there's pretty much nothing at this stage when you're still just building money that you couldn't outsource. Outsource your legal, outsource your IT, outsource your HR. Excuse me, and outsource your accounting. I want to come back to who to hire in 1 second, but one other massive advantage of using external people initially is that they're experts out there, right? You hire somebody and they work for you. They're an expert at the last company they worked at and at your company, which is fine. I was the same way when I went from one place to another as an employee. But if you're working with a CPA firm and they're working 5 hours a week or something to do bookkeeping or to do your taxes, et cetera, well, they're working with many, in this case, government contractors. And so they have this huge body of knowledge. They have a massive amount of lessons learned from this customer that they take on to others. So it's great. They will help you establish all of them, legal, HR, et cetera. They will help you establish your written policies and procedures so that when you finally do hire somebody, you're not having them create all that stuff. You're having them work with the external firm, which you'll eventually taper off, but on proven processes and proven procedures that they can just replicate and keep the ball rolling. But that's out in the future. Okay, so I slid in there for a second. As you move forward, I said the first hire is people who make money. And I would say just keep hiring them as long as there's no problem with you being able to manage the activity. So, as you're growing, let's say it's 10 people, the next hire that I recommend, no one senior ever, wait on those, no one in the back office, the next person you want to hire who perhaps is not billable, right? Because everybody in the phase one is billable, they're making money. Phase two could be a program manager. And a program manager to me is the first hire that I would make that is in the company's response, and their responsibility is to manage the people, not from an HR standpoint, but from a managing the work, making sure that their technical growth is there. An HR department or an external HR person worries about, are you happy? That kind of stuff, or are you getting what you need? Your time off, things like that. All the basic standard stuff. But a program manager will watch out and groom. They'll be the leader of these people and they'll groom them. But most importantly, their job is profit and loss for the customer. You want them watching out for this customer and making sure that they're maximizing the amount of money that you can get out of a customer. And I never mean in any bad way. I mean it the way the government and you thought about it. If they give you a $1 million contract, every year $1 million, well, the expectation is you're going to spend $1 million. And so somebody responsible for profit and loss is making sure they're tracking that to maximize the ability to get all of that money spent with the juniorest people, the least costing people, to deliver 110% to your customer, right? So never sacrifice your customer's delivery. But if you can put in a junior person because you're able to, train them up on procedures, et cetera, for your customer, then that's perfect. I don't want to get too far into this, but that's P&L, right? And this is a program manager, first person not making money. So that person's looking at P&L. And then the other thing they're looking at is growth. Okay, if we're in the Navy and we're in this particular, like NAVC, let's say, I want you in there. I'm going to try to get into this other part of the Navy as the owner. I want you trying to get the next contract within this customer, if that makes sense, right? I've got that contract that let's say it's $1 million a year. Frankly, if you're not playing at the $1 million a year level at the moment, you should still be subcontracting. So go back and watch my videos on subcontracting. Thanks for the question, Brian. By the way, I'm reading it, but I appreciate questions. What sources, locations do you suggest for hiring sales reps? So this is that have government contract experience. So Brian, I'm going to walk down that thread for a second because I feel very strongly about this, that I believe a senior government salesperson should be treated like a junior government salesperson, brand new. They should both be given the tools they need to succeed and then measured on an incremental basis. I think that in sales in particular, if I had a salesperson, I'm hiring them. I don't care where they're at. I'm generally not hiring people these days for who they know. I don't really care. In the old days, for those of you who are young, in the old days, we used to hire somebody based on how big their phone book is. We used to call it the Rolodex, right? How many names they had in their Rolodex. Well, I don't really care because if you're a good salesperson, you can get in any door. So I don't need who you have. I need who you can get. If I tell you that I want to get into this part of the Air Force, but your contacts are in this part of the Air Force, it does me no good if you actually can't knock on a door. And so when I look at where I'm going to hire people, Brian, it's less about where or who I hire, and it's more about, am I setting metrics up that will help them succeed? But, let's say a 90-day probationary period or whatever it is. I mean, the more senior you go, you figure it out. But why couldn't a senior person come in and be doing something within the first 90 days? If I hired a construction paver, I can see if they're good in the first week, first month. They're just knocking things out. They're pointing out risks. They're pointing out, hey, we can do it faster this way. You can see that a paver is good. If I hire a software developer, I can see they're good right from the beginning. It's like, man, that used to take us 2 or 3 days to get done what you just did in 2 hours. Yeah, that's the advantage of hiring a senior person. Well, if you hire a senior salesperson, it's similar to that, in my opinion, that you can tell them, look, I want to go in the Air Force. And if you follow I can't remember, and Gus, maybe you could throw this in, but if you follow my 3-stage plan for getting into a new environment or taking a junior to a senior salesperson, BD person, research is the first month, outreach is the second, and capture is the third, right? I never measure people on money. That's driven by the customer. But I can sure measure you on whether you are telling me about an agency you didn't know, whether you are learning the names of the people you didn't know and you've got their information, whether you're getting out and having new meetings, virtual meetings. I don't dwell on the in-person meetings because, one meeting could take 5 hours or something, just travel and all that. But if you're getting in and having meetings, then you're going to be successful in sales because it all kind of goes from there. So coming back to where do you find them? I don't know. I mean, I would just be doing the same thing as you. I would be looking. Yeah, I'd just be doing the same thing. So sorry, that was a long answer to Brian to say I don't want to give you one place. Like I was going to say LinkedIn because I love it, but the reality is everybody posts jobs on LinkedIn. So it's more about really building relationships and hiring somebody that you see and like. and bringing them over. Clearly not your strategic partners people, but if you go to an industry day and there's 100 salespeople right there in that meeting, you might find people you like where you have no relationship with the company. There's no problem making a job offer to them or inquiring about them. So, and I'm sorry, I told you I was sick and tired, so my brain is kind of going in circles, but I think that might be a very unique way of hiring is go to industry days and you'll find the people that you begin to respect what they're saying out there. Okay, so let me bring it back to who I'm hiring. So I said, first thing you do is hire people who make money. These are the revenue generators. These are your software developers. This is your construction crew who's on site doing the work. And then the second person I would hire, or the first non-billable person I would hire, is a program manager whose job is to kind of grow from that position, right? So I would repeat that as much as I can. The next person that I would hire relates to sales, right? So going to Brian's point, all of these back office type tasks, I would be pushing them out for as many years as I could. Somebody on the outside will do a fantastic job. You can hire a CFO who works 10 hours a month for you, and they provide oversight over your account and give you directions, and you manage the costs. So the next person I would be hiring is a salesperson. And if you followed some of what I'm saying just now, answering Brian's question about this process, now you can make a decision yourself. Do I want to hire somebody senior, or do I want to hire somebody junior? And let me tell you my thoughts. My thoughts definitely going to be junior because I'm a good salesperson and I have a good process. Whenever you do, don't hire somebody mid, because if you're hiring somebody mid, you really are looking for a senior person to begin to own the responsibility. Yes, you run the company, and yes, you'll be in charge of sales, but you eventually want somebody else to be running your sales department. You're the leader. As an owner, you'll be in there. But the reason I would hire a junior person is because I can tell them exactly what I'm looking for. In federal sales, there's no charisma. It's process. It's all process to me. When you think about the proposal, the people who have the requirements, right? Sometimes they're elusive, and sometimes you can have conversations, but everybody in the government is very aware of making sure they're not being unfair. Yes, there's unfair stuff out there, for sure, I get it. But the reality is, when you go in and talk with the program office, they're generally not telling you a lot that you couldn't find out on the outside. The huge advantage in business development, that's what I mean there, is when you have incumbency or whether you can get in there. So I don't care if I got a junior person. What I want them to do is to begin to find, let's say, SharePoint opportunities within the Navy, and I can give them guidance on where to go, minimal guidance. And then as they follow, I can give them guidance on how to find people and get out and maybe pull me into a meeting so we can talk to them about their needs, maybe some of the opportunities that are coming out. And when it comes back down to it, I'll be looking at capture, and capture is just an extension of that. And that's back to where I think owners should be. So let me pause for a second to talk about proposals. So one of the things that I would recommend in the beginning is to not hire a proposal manager. And so I just said this, right? A program manager, then a junior capture lead is the direction I would go. If you want to take the risk on any senior person, make it a salesperson and hold them accountable. But I would outsource the proposal writing if I'm doing prime contracting, really, whether I'm subbing or priming. I think you should be able to write yourself, but I recognize that not all of us are writers. But I would outsource proposal writing in the beginning because you've got a couple things going on here. You're still trying to figure out how to communicate what you do. When you're building your company initially, you want to be able to talk about what you do in paragraphs or in pages that can be inserted as a sub to a primes proposal. So that's what you want to get good at there. Well, you can be working this with freelance proposal writers, right? There's all sorts of people out there that are great, and you can get the best of their advice so that by the time you do hire a proposal manager, proposal writer, whatever you want to call them, by the time you hire somebody from the proposal side, you can hand them a lot of artifacts that you have already begun to create with somebody else at far below the cost. If you try to do this with a full-time person you've hired, then the frustration begins to come up because you're kind of expecting them to write proposals but you can't articulate what you sell in a way that they can put it into a proposal. And they'll work hard to write. They know writing and they know proposal writing, but they don't know what you do. So that's why I'm saying, do it on the outside, same as you would with accounting. And then you bring in these proven process and procedures, or in proposal writing, this proven template content that they can now go to the next stage and improve their process. Let me pause there and ask, as we get towards the bottom of this hour here, whether there's any questions that are coming to you. I'm going to take a sip of water and then repeat it, but I want to look to see if there's any specific questions. So it takes a few minutes, any question to get in there, so I'll try to watch for it. But let me just repeat. In the beginning, this is what I recommend for hiring. And I'm not trying to go long-term, because the farther I go in a company's life, the more it depends on you, right? And I'd have to see your specific things. But the first group of people you want to hire are people who are bringing money into your company, making money through some sort of billable way. And generally, I mean, on the services construction side, those are the people doing the work for the customer and making that $100 an hour or whatever, right? They're the revenue generators. You want to hire enough of them, build up enough of them that first they're paying for you to eat, right? Because you want to not work in your business. You want to work on your business. And you can't do that until you no longer have to be at the customer site, right? It's okay to go to the customer site, but you don't want to have to go there all the time. You want them to talk to your staff, and you continue to build the company. You learn how to get better as a business owner, as a salesperson, et cetera. So that first group is to get you eating off of their profit. The second is to hire more of them, so that now you've got enough money in the company to begin to make these decisions that you want to make on who you might work with, right? Maybe you're working with proposal writers that are outsourced, et cetera. But you're really trying to get to that goal of the second hire that you would make, which is a program manager. And then the third group that comes after that, from my perspective, is a junior salesperson. If you spend the time to understand the process of sales, and I mean just even the beginning process of sales, research, outreach, capture, this approach that I teach on many free videos that I put out there. If you follow that process, a junior person can really begin to help you. And even if they're only just helping you help your prime teammate, where then you're getting a piece of that junior person is helping. And at $50,000 or less cost, that's far more manageable for you to be able to hire a person like that than a senior person. So I'm going to pause there. I hope you found this helpful. It's really important to me that people outsource whatever is not your core competency for as long as possible. Don't bring any of those things you could outsource into your company until you absolutely are at the size that it would make more sense for somebody to be inside. And the same thing, by the way, I didn't want to get too far into this, but same thing with executives. I would not be hiring senior executives early on, because your hopes tend to be too much higher. And this is a much bigger, in fact, I might do a whole LinkedIn Live on this with, see if I can't interview a couple of other people who've been through my experience as well. But you want to be ready to hire and lead them. And if you're not ready to hire and lead them, what happens is you hire them in and there's conflict and then you kind of have this dip. Well, there's ways to minimize the dip. So I'll talk to you more about that one. Doing a webinar tomorrow for Texas PTAC, Del Mar, and El Paso. And for these two PTACs, going down there, basically Gus, you should be putting it in there. So the webinar is about how to be where the buyer is looking. So you want to be where they're looking. And if you can join me tomorrow, I'd love to have you join. Otherwise, let other people know about it. I'm looking and I do not see any questions. If you found this valuable, today's tip on LinkedIn, give it a thumbs up. I appreciate it. These kind of tips are, I think, useful to people who are experienced and new. You just tweak it to where you're at. So, okay, I'm going to go rest and recover so I can come right back tomorrow strong. Remember, government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. I'll see you next time.